Well, Adam Thielen was one of the top red zone receivers at 6'2". He doesn't carry himself like he's 6'2". He kind of, he slouches, he walks low. So people, he's like unassuming. But then you look at the numbers, like he's killed it in the red zone the last few years.
On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. One-of-a-kind opinions, big name guests, the teams you care about every day. It's the Ron Johnson Show, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I am your host, Ron Johnson. For those that have downloaded the podcast and are listening, taking us wherever you go, I thank you for listening. For those watching us on YouTube, hey, what's going on? As you see, I'm wearing my Gopher shirt today. Reason being is, one, it was in the car. So honestly, that's my life right now. It's my wife's car accident, and I'll talk about that at some point. My new companies, everything being bought, just all the world is too much going on right now. So I just grabbed whatever T-shirt I saw, but it also has a meaning to one of my former teammates, Marion Barber, passed away recently, and so I remember him being a freshman when I played, and he came in, and he and I both, or not he and I, he wasn't from Detroit. He tried to tell me he was from Detroit, but his dad was actually from Detroit. Went to Chadsey High School, played against my dad in high school, knew my high school coach, and so I knew Marion's dad before Marion got there because he was a Detroit guy, an alumni, blah blah. And so that I felt like what, today is a better day. What better day today than to wear my Gopher shirt. But later on the show, we're gonna have Ukee Dozier. Ukee Dozier, I think came in when Marion came in, because I remember Ukee being a freshman and we're trying to hook him up with girls and stuff. And so I think it was the same time as Marion came in, and they became really good friends. And we didn't plan that, to be honest, man. This is the thing that sucks about life. Like, we were just gonna have Ukee on to talk Vikings football, corner, safeties, and then this happens, and so we have to do our job. We're going to talk a little bit about Marion. We're going to talk Vikings football as well. And I want to get some memories just to memorialize Marion. I'm going to try to get more guys on to talk about, their relationship with Marion Barber because, and I hope the goal going forward is that we're all going to reach out to each other and get connected a little more. And then also, we're going to have the Daily Three. We're going to talk about Tanner Morgan. This is the thing. How good is Tanner Morgan? Like, is he top 10? We know Kirk Cousins should be. Is he top 20? Is he top 30? So stay tuned for that. Before we jump into the open and talk about this golf stuff with Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, we have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Let me tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. All those supply shortages, why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning, waiting behind a counter while they're helping other people? It's a pain. Save time and money. Use Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
So as I talked about the four quarterbacks, and we bring my producer in, Sam Ekstrom. I didn't watch much of it, to be honest, Sam. My daughter had a softball game. I'd much rather be at that than, worried about four guys out there hacking it up for charity. But it's good entertainment. Like, I did like a lot of the punches at each other. Tom Brady put the Lombardi trophy on a golf ball, and I asked Josh Allen, had he ever seen that before? And of course Josh Allen's like, yeah, I've seen it. Like, I don't have one, but I've seen it. And I like it. Josh Allen talked about he throws up before every game. I think it was Josh Allen who stunk it up. So he's the one that said, man, I know your back's sore because you've been carrying me this whole time. So I think there's going to be more of this, whether it stays with current quarterbacks or they keep Brady and they get Peyton Manning back involved, and Peyton and Brady both take a current guy, and they have an old and a young, or two olds and new youngs. I mean, there's so many ways they can take this thing. But clearly, It's entertaining. Clearly, it's fun. It's great to see guys suck at golf who you think should be good, because then it makes you feel better about your golf game. But we're going to transition, Sam, into quarterback play. We've been ranking these quarterbacks. I put Kirk Cousins in the top 10, of course. We know about that. Or at least 10 to 12. But where do these 4 quarterbacks fall? As far as top 10, they're not 1, 2, 3, 4 by far. No. But where do they fall? And this one, honestly, Sam, like for me, this was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like Tom Brady, I want to say he's 1. But am I saying he's 1 because of his career, or he's 1 because of right now? And that's what's hard. Josh Allen, you see him and Pat Mahomes go at it. So Pat Mahomes has always bested him. So do you put Pat Mahomes on top of him automatically? Yes. The answer is yes. He's bested him twice in overtimes. I think Pat Mahomes told a joke too, like, what's your biggest fear? I think he's trying to say overtime. I didn't really catch the whole joke of that one. But but when you think about these 4, this is where I go with it. I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers. This is right now, though. Right now. Aaron Rodgers. Shoot, this is hard. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers.
You're going to get destroyed on Twitter.
I am. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, and then Josh Allen. Those are the way I'm going to go. Even though Tom Brady's old, I still feel like he's good. He can get it done. Yes, I know Pat Mahomes is an all-time whatever, but you saw him struggle when he didn't have an offensive line that was decent, where Tom Brady finds ways to get out of plays with a subpar offensive line. And we just know Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he's a plug-and-play quarterback. Any receivers you put around him, any guys you put around him, still does it with his legs, does it with his arms. Yes, he's older, but he's good. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, and then Josh Allen. Those are the way I would go. How would you take it?
So you're giving a lot of weight to the veteran quarterbacks. I can respect that. Yeah. But I look at Patrick Mahomes. He's been to the conference championship 4 years in a row. He's the most exciting quarterback in the National Football League. And by the time it's over for him, he might be at Brady level. And I know that Brady's got the Super Bowl rings. And if we're ranking all-time career performance, Brady is number 1. But I put Mahomes number 1 right now for the quarterback I'd want. Brady number 2, because he does have he's got a better postseason track record than Aaron Rodgers, who's number 3 for me. And then Josh Allen, he could get there. He could get to 1 or 2 status here if he continues to ascend. But let's face it, he's only had, 2 pretty good seasons. And those seasons didn't even result in a conference championship appearance. So he's got a little bit more to prove to me. So I think he's 4. I think we both agree on that. But it is about the world's toughest ranking to try to decide where Mahomes fits in these like legends that are almost 40 years old or are 40 years old in Brady's case.
Because here's a simple stat. Tom Brady, 5,300 yards last year. Pat Mahomes, 4,800. Josh Allen, 4,400. Kirk Cousins, 42-21. Aaron Rodgers, 41-15. And so when you look at that, if you were just go numbers, you go Brady, Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers. Now, I wouldn't be afraid to say it that way. Go Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen. I would flip those 2 just because, Aaron Rodgers dealt with some games. They had a great run game. Matt LaFleur is going to run the ball. Brady was actually do a lot last year. Pat Mahomes is a passing quarterback, and as well as Josh Allen. And that's where I kind of would take it too. You could argue that that's where I should go. You should go by yards alone and just say Brady's still up there. Mahomes is second because he's explosive. Like you said, he gave the numbers. And then you got Aaron Rodgers just because I think he's better than Josh Allen. And then you got Josh Allen. Kirk Cousins is in there, though. He's in that top. I'm just joking. But if you look at that, that's where I take that. From a golf aspect, the other thing I would love to see, which would be funny, I think, you put all 32 starting quarterbacks and you let them play in a round as well. Because then you have multiple camera. Instead of us just watching 4 guys and following 4 guys and it's slow, you just let foursomes of quarterbacks, throw 8 foursomes out there of quarterbacks and let them play. Technically, you could fill up a whole course just like they do in Tahoe and do something like this and get all the starters, like a lot of starters. Each team maybe sends out their 4 So you go 32 teams, and each team, so like the
Ooh.
Vikings would send Adam Thielen, I don't even know, Kirk
Peterson.
Cousins.
Patrick Peterson's really
Is Patrick
good.
Peterson's good? Okay, Patrick
Yeah.
Peterson. And then I don't know who's the third. I guess it's got to be a punter or like there's those punters, and Greg Coleman's a good golfer. And Greg Coleman's like a 2 handicap. I mean, you could really put some money down and get a lot of TV coverage on something like that, because a lot of the guys are going to suck. Like Adam Thielen's good. We know that. Harrison Smith's decent. But you're going to get some guys out there, that fourth guy that's going to Brady and some of those guys struggle in that big stage like that. You're going to get some guys that really stink up the joint, depending on how nice the course is too. Because, we're talking about some courses where pros struggle, and now you throw these semi guys, who are 75, 80, shooters, and, they have to do it. I think it's comical. It would be great TV. That might be on to something. Who knows what's going to happen, but I like the idea. But up next, we got Ukee Dozier, former Gophers DB, former Vikings DB as well, but also friend to Marion Barber. Stay tuned for that. And now a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Let me tell you about Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find the latest odds, news, sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs. You got the finals starting tonight. Major League Baseball scores, fights, even next season's NFL futures. I think I would be wagering on the Celtics with that plus money. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering info, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Next up on the Ron Johnson Show, we got Ukee Dozier. The original interview with Ukee was supposed to be just a lighthearted, fun conversation. Vikings, Gophers, roll the boat, PJ Fleck. So this interview was already scheduled before this happened, because I'm not a shock jock. I'm not out there trying to find great stories when things happen. I know it's my job, but that's not really what I'm about to do. When I heard yesterday that Marion Barber had passed away, it was ironic, but honestly, man, I look at it as a God thing too, as far as connecting me and Ukee on a bigger topic. And as I bring Ukee Dozier in, Ukee was a freshman, so to tell a story like I always do about guys, I have Ryan Clark, I had a Spice Adams story. I got to tell my Ukee Dozier story. Ukee Dozier, as a freshman, comes into our facility, walks into the meeting room, and him and another guy on our team, I don't know if it was Jakari Wallace or who it was, we're talking about this girl, and they're both explaining what this girl looks like, and they're both saying how they met all these girls on campus. They're excited about it. Ukee ended up, and let me be real, Ukee ended up winning the girl's heart. He ended up winning the girl's heart. But as they're both explaining like all these different girls they met on campus, after about 4 minutes, we all looked at each other. We're like, I think y'all met the same girl. It was probably the best moment ever for seniors, seeing these freshmen like with their eyes wide open. Ukee was so young, and and even though he was a DB, somehow, I don't know if it was through other friends or what, me and Ukee became friends. We end up going to like parties together. We end up going to like these dance things together. Him, John Richmond. I don't know if it's because we all like to go out and have fun and like stay up late, work out early. Like that was our crew. And then Ukee Dozier and I stayed friends after the fact. Ukee's on a text group chat with a couple Gophers. And so when I bring Ukee in, Ukee, I want to say, man, like I know Marion was your boy. Like Marion came in with you as well. Y'all were here, went through it, 10-3 seasons, all the stuff. When you first heard the news, kind of the same way we all did, man. Like for me, I'm not gonna curse, but I was upset, man, because I lost my dad. And I know he was kind of isolated at times as well, and so I me and Marion had a conversation about that, about being connected, and I told him what my dad was going through. And so when you heard that, man, like what was that, the first thing that went through your mind, kind of, or how are you doing?
It's obviously everybody kind of copes and grieves differently. So just like you say, Marion, we were very close. We were roommates together at University Village, room 305. We called it 305 right, because we both on the right side. So it was just one of those things, man. When the news came out, obviously it was a shocker. I didn't think it was true at first. I'm like, you know what, maybe it's a rumor. Let me look at it and let me Google it. Let me figure out what's going on, right? So as I started Googling and I started to realize, it was I think it was one story at the time. The next thing I know, I refreshed. It was about three. Refreshed again, and I saw it all on Twitter. I was like, oh man, this is not good. This is not good. But before I confirmed it, I ended up calling John Richmond. Obviously, me, John, and Marion, we were roommates as well. Called John, like, John, did you hear the news, man? I'm like, I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I'm hearing. First thing he asked, did you call Dom? No, I didn't call Dom. I'm not ready to call Dom. It was just one of those things. I'm like, I want to make sure, for one, it's confirmed. Secondly, I just don't know how to have that conversation with this brother at this point in time if it's new information that just came out. John got off the phone with me. He was like, I'm calling. So he called Don. And next thing I know, I got a text maybe 15 minutes later saying, yep, it's true. So at that point in time, I was like, oh man, like this really just happened. Like it really just happened. And we all know, it's kind of been, in the news and the tabloids, he kind of dealt with some things, but everybody deals with things, right? So it's always one of those situations where, when you hear something tragic of this nature, especially when it's somebody personal to you, it's a complete shock, and I've been through all kind of emotions at this point in time, but I think, this final emotion, that, not even gonna say final emotion, but this emotion that I'm in right now is more at peace, because I feel like he's at peace with where he's at right now. Knowing, just things that he's dealt with. My heart kind of goes out to his family. His brothers. I know, Thomas is supposed to be getting married soon. From my understanding, I think, and I don't know if it's true if he was supposed to be getting married on Marion's birthday. I wasn't sure, but I think this is the information that I've just recently heard. So, my heart kind of goes out to the family, because it's, that's their blood, that's their brother, their sons. So it's, like I say, it's a shocker, man.
Yeah, man. And I talked to Marion when he came back I think Thomas was a senior maybe for a spring game, and same thing, man. I kind of went over there, and it took him a minute, and then he was like, oh man, what's up, Ron, blah blah. And so right away I called Spice on FaceTime, because I know Marion and Spice, and man, Marion's face lit up talking to Spice, like just, Bears conversations and jokes, and he loves, Spice's on social media stuff, and and so when I saw him light up like that, I'm like, man, that's what being connected is about. Like we all, myself, you, Tony Patterson, Jared Ellerson, John Richmond, Antoine Burns is coming here this weekend. Like, I think women, man, and I've talked to a couple alumni. Like I talked to Mike or Coach Rump, Vikings new defensive line coach, and he and I both talked about that. He's an older guy, but just being connected, like, because he asked me like, how's this job for you? And he meant like working for the Vikings and doing all the stuff I do for them. And I'm like, man, it keeps me in the game. Like it keeps me around. Like I was standing out there, and the day I had on Tuesday, definitely better than Wednesday, but the day I had on Tuesday, it reminded me of the connection. Like I'm just standing there, and Kevin O'Connell comes out and said, we have a quick conversation. Then Adam Thielen, comes in and kind of bumps me, and we have a conversation. Daniil Hunter and I kind of chat quick, and so when I think about that, one, alumni have to take advantage of that, man. Like, and my goal this year with the Gophers even is get more of us out there to just practice. Like, let's all go hang out at practice together. Women do such a great job of that. I feel like men, even guys trips. Like I've made so many excuses of why I don't take a guys trip with you guys.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm not gonna cry about it, but like, man, it's so hard, because I know, like, when you see players, man, like I know what that feels like to be isolated, because I was isolated when I first got cut. And I came back to Minnesota. It was just me and my wife, and Tony Patterson was around every once in a while, but it was just us. And so she would be with her friends, and I'd just be in the house. And man, by the grace of God, man, all you guys start coming back. You move back. John Richmond moved back. Tony Patterson ended up dating my wife's friend, and so he stayed. Jared Ellerson came back. Aston Osai stayed. Mike Lehan stayed. And so it created like a group of friends, man, that like I wasn't by myself anymore. Like I wasn't just in Minnesota because I was too old to hang out with the college guys and I was too young to hang out with Greg Coleman, and so I just kind of was in like no man's land. And I know what that feels like, man. And losing my dad, like I just think about all the NFL players like of recent too. Like it's hard to know that. But like I agree with you, man. It's good to see, Marion's happy now. He's not questioning anything. He's not questioning, does anybody love him? He's not questioning, is anybody his friend? He knows the answers now, and it sucks that it had to be, this way, and we all had to deal with this. And there's no way to do it. But Ukee, I want to ask you this question, man. Like for you, when you look at the connections, you're in the Cooper School District, so you're around guys. You coach with Tellus Redmond and Tony Patterson and all those guys. How has that been for you as a former player, having that connection with those guys?
It's been great. And it's funny because last year was actually kind of tough for me because when I took a new role within Robbinsdale School District as the executive director of finance. But with that, with this role, I had to step back from like being fully engaged in coaching. I was still around, but just take that step back from being fully engaged. So it was kind of tough because it was, for one, I was taking a step back from the kids, but another thing, I was also taking, a slight step back from just that coaching camaraderie that we kind of built, especially with guys who I've known for so long that I've built these relationships with, right? So you talk about the Tellus Redmond, you talk about Tony Patterson, you got Neil Allen there as well. Willie Howard obviously, kind of came along a little later after that. But just being able to be in that group, just to be around those guys and the fellowship all the time, what we do is all about community engagement, but when we're engaging in the community, we're engaging together as a team, and just building that whole brotherhood amongst everything. We always barbecue, like summertime right now. First thing I think about summertime, we're grilling, right? It's all about that fellowship and grilling and Willie putting a pig on the grill and just doing his Willie Hanna thing. That's what I call it. I call it Willie Hanna because he's chefing it up, So just being able to have that connection, again, you talk about that connection, man, just knowing that that's there, that set foundation is there. If there's anything that you need, if you need to lean on anybody for any given moment, I know that I have that connection within that group, right? And it's the same thing with my group of guys, throughout, from the University of Minnesota. You talk about our group text, right? We talk about the trips that we take, even though you tend to not come along, but just having that, man, just having that outlet from life to just come back and just fellowship and just talk and re-engage with everybody, man. I think it's great, man. It's great to have that connection. It's great to have those conversations, man. And I know those one things that I value each and every day about just the friendships that I've built over the course of these years here in Minnesota.
Yeah, man, and I love the golf. So I mean, honestly, like I'm still probably 75% in, but this definitely made me realize like I gotta create memories like that with guys, because just talking to former players, talking to other players that's what guys miss, the locker room, like being around guys and being around each other. But got to get some Vikings Gophers out of you too, man. Two quick ones at you. When you look at Vikings, you were a young Vikings cornerback. When you look at these DBs, you got Harrison Smith, you got Lewis Seen, you have Patrick Peterson, and now you add a guy in Caleb Evans. You got Andrew Booth Jr., you got Shannon Sullivan from the Packers. When you think about a guy like Patrick Peterson being a veteran, and then you grab a early draft pick in Andrew Booth Jr. that can learn from him. As a young corner, what are some things you would have done right away to try to learn from Patrick Peterson early on, during mini camp and training camp?
Oh man, I'd be in Patrick Peterson's back pocket, man. Like truthfully, it's funny because when I was there, at the time we had Fred Smoot, we had Antoine Winfield. Those are the guys who I kind of gravitated to. I kind of probably gravitated a little more to Antoine Winfield because, just his game itself, his game was more technically sound. Fred Smoot was just an athlete out there playing ball, right? So for me, it's about how can I, learn from these guys to help better my craft. And again, it's not, a lot of times it's not what you do on the field. A lot of times it's what you do off the field as well. So you're trying to figure out like what's your lifestyle about. I'm trying to get to your I'm trying to accomplish the things that you've accomplished. I'm trying to get to that point in a pinnacle in my career. In order for me to do that, I got to figure out who's doing it great, and really try to mimic what they're doing at that point in time. So you talk about these young corners, and you have a future Hall of Famer in Patrick Peterson. Yes, I said that, future Hall of Famer in Patrick Peterson. That's somebody that you have to lean on at this point in time. And I think he's at that career. So there's different points of your career. I think you have a mastery, kind of period within your career, and you also have a mentor period in your career. And then a meeting period as well. So that's at the end. Patrick Peterson is in that mentoring phase right now. He's done it all. He's been to however many Pro Bowls. He's been a prolific cornerback in his league. And I think he's willing, for one, it's not about him. Obviously, he came back to the Vikings for a reason. It's not about him. It's not about his individual stats. It's about helping elevate the team, right? So he has that selfish nature where I believe he's going to want to, attach himself to some of these young corners and try to teach them everything that they need to know, right? Only thing that they have to do is they have to be willing to put forth everything, to put down all of the hula and everything else of just being a draft pick and now becoming an NFL player. Like right now, you have to dial into perfecting your craft. And in order to perfect your craft, like I say, you have to dial into the ones who have been there, and you have to take advantage. You have to take advantage of those opportunities. Like everybody doesn't get to come into a league and be on a team, with a Patrick Peterson. You don't get that opportunity. So I think you have to take advantage of it, man. I'm hoping they do so.
Well, I want to thank Ukee for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. I know it's a tough day. Wasn't planned, but, I think we did a good job of telling Marion's story, telling his life. And hopefully, that's my goal, is to talk about him a little bit more, just so people get the right side of the story. I'm tired of people bringing up stats. It's not about the stats. It's about the man, and he was a great one. But that'll do it for Ron Johnson, Ukee Dozier. Up next, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Ron Johnson Show. It's now time for the Daily 3. For those listening on the podcast, thank you. And you're about to get entertained. For those watching on YouTube, you're about to see what Sam really looks like. Take it away, Sam. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes.
Surprise. I was at Vikings practice yesterday. Wow. Adam Thielen made one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. It was Odell-like. Back line of the end zone, one-handed, reaching over the top, tiptoeing, backpedaling. It was unbelievable. I haven't seen video of it from VEN, so it might not exist except in my memory, but it was amazing. Kevin O'Connell raved about it after the fact, and got me thinking, how many touchdowns is Adam Thielen good for this year, Ron?
Well, Adam Thielen was one of the top red zone receivers. At 6'2", he doesn't carry himself like he's 6'2". He kind of, he slouches, he walks low. So people, he's like unassuming. But then you look at the numbers, like he's killed it in the red zone the last few years. And so I know Kevin O'Connell, and he's talked about this. He's talked about red zone efficiency. He's talked about the amount of times Kellen Mond or Kirk Cousins is checked out of a play and into a good play in the red zone. So they're going to really, and everybody heightens the red zone. But now when you're a head coach, because my guess is Zimmer, defensive guy, his focus, which they did a great job, was third down defense and red zone defense. Bend but don't break. Make them kick field goals. Mike Zimmer had one of the best. Third down, let's get off the field. Mike Zimmer had one of the best. Now you have an offensive-minded head coach who he's going to come in and he's going to say, hey, third down offense. We got to have great plays. We got to be creative. We got to do this. Red zone. I'm going to put you guys in a position to win. Kirk Cousins, you got to make the throw. Kirk, if you see something you don't like in the red zone, switch it. Motion some guys. Move some guys. Let's get you a better idea what the coverage looks like. So all of that is going to help Kirk be better. But then at the end of the day, if you could just throw it to Adam Thielen making one-handed catches, makes your job a lot easier. And we forget he still has Justin Jefferson over there. So Justin Jefferson is going to take a lot of attention away from Adam Thielen. So I think Adam, like touchdowns overall, I think you get 10. From a red zone perspective, I mean, most of the touchdowns were red zone. So I'm thinking like 8 or 9 of those 10 will be red zone touchdowns.
Yeah, the Vikings were 10th in the red zone last year, which is pretty good. But when you've got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Irv Smith, KJ Osborne, who was another touchdown machine last year, when you've got all those guys, you should be a top 5, maybe even the number 1 red zone team in the league if you're just a little bit creative on offense. So I think they can shoot for 70% in the red zone this year. That is my lofty goal for this team.
Okay.
The college football, Ron, this is interesting. So ESPN ranked
Mm-hmm.
all the Division I quarterbacks by tier. So they lumped them into 25 different tiers. Tanner Morgan was in tier number 9, and that put him at about 41st out of 131 quarterbacks that they ranked. So tier 9, 41st rank. Is that about right, Ron, or do you think they're disrespecting Tanner Morgan?
Definitely disrespect, but that's going off of like ESPN. They're not going to go into the vault to rank these guys. College football, just like the NFL, it's about what have you done for me lately. You see that all the time with quarterbacks who have started off great and then had slump years and then they don't get drafted where you think they should. If you look at CJ Stroud, you look at Caleb Williams, you look at Bryce Young. Heisman or bust is what they're calling that tier 1 guys. I mean, we know what you got out of, you know what you're getting out of Bryce Young. You know what you're getting out of CJ Stroud. Caleb Williams, of course, transfers, follows Lincoln over there. Who knows what kind of NIL he promised him. And then you got the waiting room, tier 2. You got Devin Leary. You got Cam Rising. I love the name. And you got Tyler Van Dyke. Same thing. Where do you put these guys? Are you putting these guys based off of conversations? I know Utah had a great, couple seasons. And so, where's that at? And then you look at tier 3, you go to tier 4, and like you said, all the way down to tier 25. And you look at these are free agents, you look at transfers, you look at tier 24. And so when you think about these numbers, and you said Tanner was what tier?
9, tier 9,
so
which I think it was
so
like
look at tier 25.
Veterans with veterans with moxie was what they called them.
And you got tier 25, which is free agents. So you go all the way from Heisman down to free agents is what they want to call them. But yeah, tier 9, you got 7 players. You got Sam Clifford from Penn State. I like it. You got Tanner McKee, Stanford. You got Tanner Morgan. You got Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State. You got Jordan Travis from Florida State. And then you have Tristan Gebbin and Chance Nolan. Now, there's the thing, Gebbia, sorry. And there's the thing about them. Those are both Oregon State's quarterbacks. So they're saying whichever one is going to start is going to be in that tier. That's why I take it with a grain of salt. You don't know what either of these guys are really going to be, but you're just saying whichever one starts is in tier 9. That to me is dumb, because if one of them was, you're telling me 2 guys competing are better or should be in the same tier as Tanner Morgan. So that's why I think that's just somebody who's writing. Great read, great write, gives you a lot of, Adrian Martinez went to Kansas State. He's not better than Tanner Morgan. He's in tier 7. Like, come on. I mean, it's about like where they're at. Same with tier 7. You got Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy, 2 guys at Michigan fighting for a spot, but they both should be in tier 7. Whatever.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, if they wrote this story after the big year with Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman, he probably would have been in like tier 3, Correct. So these things are constantly changing. Last one, NBA Finals start tonight. Ron, we've talked about sort of your pick for the series as far as the team goes, but I want to get your MVP selection before the series starts this evening.
Steph Curry. I think this is his time. Like, he doesn't have a Kevin Durant. He doesn't have a guy on the opposite side like a LeBron James that can steal the show. Now, Jason Tatum is a favorite as well. I think it was Clay, or it was Steph, then Tatum, then Jaylen Brown, then what's his name? His brother, Splash brother, Clay Thompson. So I think those 4 were like the high money for Vegas as far as who in Bet Online for who are gonna be the MVPs. But I'm gonna go with Steph. I think he's played second fiddle a lot of these finals to some guys every once in a while, and he's got put in some positions. I think he's really he's a veteran now. He's rested. Like the Warriors got him back at the perfect time. So I think he's going to show up and show out. Like, he's going to be ready to go. So my favorite, Steph Curry.
All right, I'm going to go Clay just to be contrarian, because I think that Boston will sell out to stop Steph. So if Clay puts together some big games, I think he could get the vote.
Yeah, I mean, but the Boston Celtics say they're the best, not they. People are saying they're one of the best defensive teams in NBA history. So you shouldn't have to sell out for Steph. You should just be able to lock him down. And I don't care how many people you throw at Steph. He can shoot from the logo comfortably. Like a step in front of the logo is just his warm-up. Like he does that. So you're going to have to extend that defense further than you want. And then once he passes it and gets to doing that crazy run around the park thing he does, like his I'd love to see his conditioning and cardio program because it is ridiculous. But yeah, good luck, Boston. If Steph is off, I think that's going to be the key. Jason Tatum can't let up on the gas at all. He's going to do his Kobe Bryant text with the wristband thing. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think it's the Warriors, and I think it's Steph Curry MVP. Well, that'll do it for the Ron Johnson Show today. I want to thank everybody that's listening on the podcast. I want to thank all those that watched us all the way through on YouTube. Thank you for being a part of the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Please, thank you. Just continue to download, continue to listen, share with your friends. Tell them, hey, the Ron Johnson Show was good, man. Good stories, good interviews, great content. Thank you, and have a great day.